Carson Wentz his name has been bubbling up in the air as of recent. Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen reported that he's probably going to get traded in the next coming days. Hopefully he doesn't get traded before this segment is put out for you guys to watch in this episode, because that would just be a flunker. But the two teams that have been linked to Carson Wentz are the Colts and the Bears. And somebody had reported that the Bears had offered Nick Foles, Tariq Cohen, and a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, that statement was later redacted. Tariq Cohen had tweeted it himself. We're not sure what's true, but where do you think that Carson Wentz will end up?
I've said this since last season. As much as he was kind of, I would say, a failure last year, and it ends up with the benching, I thought that, especially after the hiring of Nick Sirianni, they should stick with Carson Wentz, because next season, or this upcoming season, it doesn't make sense financially to dump him. If you trade him, you're taking on a $33 million dead cap hit, and you just brought in Frank Reich's right-hand man from Indianapolis. So I thought when they made that hire, I gave them credit for it, because it was, okay, you can't bring back Frank Reich, so bring back the next best thing, the guy who's essentially drawing up the offense there, and try and fix Carson Wentz. It makes sense when you think about it that way. You don't want to give up on your franchise guy, the guy that you paid $100 million to. You kind of look stupid if you give up on him and you admit that you're wrong. So to me, that thought made sense. So now you brought him in, but you're going to get rid of the quarterback that I figured was the reason you brought in that head coach, while also taking on a $33 million dead cap hit. And I don't know, to me, it doesn't seem like the Eagles are really going to be competing next year. Like, what are they going to do with quarterback then? Are they going to go with Jalen Hurts? And if not, are they going to trade Jalen Hurts too? And if, then who do they have playing quarterback? Are they drafting a quarterback? So I know Nick Foles was discussed in one of the deals. If they bring in Nick Foles, I don't really see them competing in that division. I think the Washington football team and the Cowboys, if they can bring back Dak and stay healthy, will be better. And maybe even the Giants, depending on how much Daniel Jones improves next year. So I just don't see a sense of direction here. I feel like if you're going to dump Carson Wentz, at least give him one more shot with Nick Sirianni to turn it around, and then move on from him next season when the money doesn't hurt as bad to get rid of him. But if they were going to go somewhere, I think places that would make the most sense for him, the Bears, if they're going to move on from Mitch Trubisky, I think getting a quarterback like Carson Wentz in the building. Washington football team would be a good place for him. The Colts, places that need a quarterback, need to figure out their plan for quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years. And I think Carson Wentz has the potential to be that guy. We've talked about him a couple times on this channel. I don't think he's a lost cause. I just think he needs some mechanical fixes and his confidence back. And any team that can offer him that and bring him in with a good head coach and a good offensive system, I think would be a good spot for him. We've seen he can be an MVP caliber player, but it's just getting him back to that form. And I think any team that needs a quarterback should be in on this.
I would agree with you. But Wentz says he wants out. He doesn't even want it. He doesn't even want to attempt to make it work out with Nick Sirianni. And Adam Schefter, along with Chris Mortensen, have said that he's going to get traded in the next coming days. And when especially in the NFL world, when they say something in terms of transactions, it's probably going to happen. And I think the two teams that are in the mix are the Bears and the Colts. For me, I think that the Chicago Bears, I think Carson Wentz will end up with the Chicago Bears. And the reason why is because Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, wants to do everything humanly possible to fix the mistake that he made a couple years back when he drafted Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Because of that, he's going to give up a lot for Carson Wentz. And the Eagles want a Matthew Stafford-like deal. I think the Bears are going to cave in. I don't think the Colts are that desperate to give up a lot for Carson Wentz. I don't think so, especially given the contract. Wentz has 4 years left on his contract. The good news is that 2020, the team can release him and save $7 million in cap space. So that's a good sign. But I think the Bears are the team that Carson Wentz will ultimately end up with. And in my opinion, I don't think that's a good fit. I don't like Matt Nagy's play calling. I'm not high on him at all. I don't think he can fix Carson Wentz. I think the offensive talent is not there either. Tariq Cohen, he's a receiving back. David Montgomery had a pretty good season last season, but that offensive line is still an issue. Allen Robinson wants to win a ring. He probably doesn't think he's going to do it in Chicago. He's probably going to leave. They don't have much cap space to mess around with this offseason. So because of that, Carson Wentz is going to go to Chicago with basically the same problems they had in Philly. You have no offensive line and no receiver help. The best fit for Carson Wentz would be the Indianapolis Colts, but I don't think the Indianapolis Colts are desperate for Carson Wentz. I think for the right price, they trade for him, but I don't think the Eagles are going to accept that. And because the Bears right now are kind of in a desperate situation, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, they are fighting for their jobs. They need to do something quick to get this team on track, because if they miss the playoffs next season or they don't have a good year, they're both getting fired. Frank Reich has that security. Because of that, I think the Bears are going to cave in and give up more than what I believe Carson Wentz is worth.
So let me ask you, if the Colts don't go out and get Carson Wentz, where do they pivot next? Would it be Sam Darnold? Because the options are getting lesser and lesser by the day.
It probably is Sam Darnold, maybe bringing back Jacoby Brissett. I wouldn't rule out trading for Marcus Mariota. That's also another possibility. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater.
I don't think they're in on Watson. I don't think they would
have
the assets plus cap.
I don't think the Texans trade with the division rival either.
That's another good point.
And then I think it's just the draft. You just have to bank on the draft. And, I mean, Frank Ballard is not in any rush to make a move. They asked him in an interview about drafting a quarterback, and he said, I don't care about drafting a quarterback for the optics of it. If he's not the right quarterback, I'm not going to draft him. So he's really not in a rush to try to draft someone just for publicity's sake. Same reason why he's not in a rush to make a trade for Carson Wentz just for publicity's sake. Carson Wentz is in his, fifth, sixth year in the NFL. I think fifth. I'm pretty sure one of those. And he's still having these mechanical problems. As much as I want to believe in Wentz, that is a huge concern. So we'll see what happens. But I think ultimately he's going to end up in Chicago, and I'm not sure I like that fit too much.
No, I mean, we saw what happened with Trubisky, and maybe it was just Trubisky having a low ceiling, but you didn't really see much improvement at all under Matt Nagy. I thought that Trubisky got worse over his time, and then he had a solid end of the year this year, but I wasn't impressed as the numbers might have shown. So with Wentz going there, already having confidence issues, and like you mentioned, he would be having a lot of the same issues that he had in Philadelphia and Chicago with the offensive line, with not great weapons, with poor play calling. So I don't think it's a good fit either. For the Colts, I thought their guy was Matthew Stafford. So I'm very interested to see what the Colts do. But I don't know if it's Carson Wentz. Like you said, I don't know that there are many teams that are chomping at the bit to go out and get Carson Wentz after the struggles he had this year. Because
it would be funny.
Teams that are in a position to win like the Colts, I think if the Colts get the right quarterback, they could be right up there in the AFC conference race. But a Carson Wentz move doesn't make much sense for them because he needs a little bit of rebuilding that confidence and mechanics. But for a team that is a younger team that is looking for a quarterback, it makes more sense just to go out and draft their own guy, especially in a draft that has 3 to 5 quarterbacks that people are pretty high on.
It would be funny if the Bears do in fact trade for Carson Wentz, because they would be ultimately going from the 2017 second overall pick in Mitchell Trubisky to the 2016 second overall pick in Carson Wentz, except that 2017 quarterback in Trubisky, they would not be giving an extension, and in Carson Wentz, they'd be locked in for 4 years. And Carson Wentz has been good outside of this 2020 season, but he's also never played a playoff game. So how much are you willing to trade / invest for a quarterback that has never played in a playoff game, that is coming off this horrendous season? It's a big question mark.
And he's pretty injury prone too. Behind a not great offensive line is another concern.
So we'll see what happens.